What's going on, everybody? Gentleman94 here. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Ben Builds. Today, guys, we are back on the Harrier, and I've been looking over my paint situation in preparation for the day's work, which is going to be the ejection seat, the cockpit, and the fuselage. I want to go ahead and get started on this awesome little kit. So talking about the paint, I have the majority of what I need. Like, I've got the flat black, I've got the light gray that I want to use for the cockpit tub and the interior. But there's some other colors here, like the sandy yellow, that I might have to kind of substitute. I don't know why I would need this, maybe for the seat belts or something like that, but I don't know about that. Then, of course, we have other colors like, olive drab, things like that, a dark sea gray and the light sea gray, things like that. I have a majority of that, like I have got this olive drab I can use if need be, for like seat cushions, things like that. And then I've got some other colors like we need white, so I've got some flat white. So I've got most of the colors that I need. Of course, I might need to make it around to the hobby store eventually, but for right now, I think we're pretty good. So like I said, today we're going to be working on the cockpit area. I wanted to build the ejection seat, and I'm not really going to worry about, if it's a correct version or not. I'm just going to roll with it and just see what I can do. So we're going to start with the ejection seat, and we're going to build up the cockpit, and then we're going to also build up the fuselage. So let me go ahead and get out my tools. We're going to need our flesh cuts, as always. I actually need to get some new ones of these. These are a little dull for my liking. We have our X-Acto knife with a fresh blade. Gotta have our jeweler files. Love those. And we're probably going to need some tweezers. Let me see. So we'll get tweezers. I think we're good. So let's go ahead and start building up the ejection seat. So let's do it. It's going to be fun. So the ejection seat went together very well. Didn't have any complaints. It all fit together perfectly. So we're going to move forward into the instrument panel area. Now the instrument panel does require one of the front panels to be glued on. I don't know if it's really going to fit well, but we're going to check it out and see what it looks like. The one panel is right here. Looks like I need to do a little bit of cleanup on it, but it shouldn't be too bad. Let's go ahead and test fit that because I have a feeling it kind of sticks out a bit too much. So I want to go ahead and maybe bring that down a bit, but we're going to test fit and we're going to see. Again, I'm not necessarily doing this 100% accurately. I'm going to be building with what I have to work with, but I think this is going to look all right. So let me check this here. Yeah, I think it sticks out too far. So let's bring that down. I'm going to be using my sanding block here, and I'm just going to remove just a little bit off of that to bring the instrument panel a little closer to the main portion of it. I think, yeah, just a little bit, just to kind of bring that edge down a bit. So we're going to move to our jeweler files now and just start bringing this down a little bit more of a controlled sand. Because before, that sanding block is super coarse, so it can take a lot of plastic off with very few swipes. These jeweler files take a bit more effort, so we can control our sanding a bit more. And let's talk a little bit about the cockpit itself. Now I know there's a lot of aftermarket resin kits and a lot of things you can buy to spruce up the cockpit. I've opted not to do that because those are kind of expensive, and I just kind of want to see what I can do out of the box. So we're going to utilize a lot of what we have just at our fingertips. Also, I'm not going to use the decal for this. I want to go ahead and try to paint it. So we're going to go ahead and, after this is all dry and glued, we're going to go ahead and spray paint the entire thing a flat black. Then we'll come back and we'll be able to dry brush and kind of make it look a little bit more worn, a little more used, and give it some busyness. So that's going to be fine. A little drop of Tamiya thin, perfect. Let's move on while we're at it. Let's go to the bottom of the fuselage. There are two holes here we have to open. I don't know what these are for, but it says that I should open these. So let's go ahead and open them up. And I'm using my hobby knife just to give it a little bit of a twist here and there and open these up. I don't want to go too big. I don't know what goes in it, but I just want to go ahead and open those up. Probably for a weapon payload of some sort. So that's looking pretty decent. We should also probably cut this out, and we're going to start assembling the fuselage. There's some interesting workings going on in there, so we're going to use our flush cuts. We're going to cut some of these parts out, and we're going to start assembling the fuselage sides and the base. So, without further ado, let's get on with it. I wanted to take a break here and show you guys kind of how this goes together. These, I guess, side supports that are going to be used for the burners to go ahead and plug into, they're actually kind of cool. I was under the impression, though, that they would rotate, that the units, the right and left side of each burner would rotate together. They don't do that. Looks like they rotate individually. So I'm probably not going to fool around too much with that, but this is really neat. And the thing is that it gives it a nice bit of rigidity, and it has a nice solid feel to it. Let's throw the front of the Pegasus engine in there. That's nicely molded, the fan blade. That's going to be pretty visible too. So I wanted to just glue that in using some extra thin Tamiya. That should be pretty decent fit though. I don't have an issue with that. Now installing the bottom part of the fuselage here, it looks like we have to go ahead and extend this up inside, but below the lateral supports. Let's shift this right up inside here. Push the whole thing up inside. We'll come down from the top. Kind of align this up into the position, flip it over. Now let's take one side, get that hooked in, and let's see, you know what, there we go. There's some locating tabs you got to just kind of fit together, and that looks pretty decent. All right, nice. So let's go ahead and take a little bit of the extra thin cement. We're going to dot a few dots here and there. I love this stuff. This Tamiya extra thin is so good. It's just such a nice cement to use. Highly recommend it if you don't use it. Give it a shot, give it a try. I'm going to try to avoid using plastic welder on this build because I don't think I need it. Tamiya extra thin should be perfectly fine for what I'm needing to do with this. We're going to drop a little bit of drops here in the corners. We're going to push this up, make this flush. Looking pretty decent. All right, let's let it dry. So I've kind of mocked up here the front nose area for the fuselage and for the cockpit. As you can see, everything fits together nicely in there, but there are some missing areas right here on the side. On the side back portion of the cockpit itself, there needs to be some busyness going on in there. And there should be some wires, some boxes. I don't know what they are, but this is what I found here for a reference. This is an actual resin kit that you can buy, that you could just swap out and replace. But again, like I was saying, I want to try to do this out of the box as much as possible. So, yeah, you can see right here, this is kind of the angle that it should be at. So yeah, we're missing a lot of wiring and awesome busyness going on here in the back, I guess, firewall. So I want to try to scratch build that. And I'm going to be using a few parts and pieces and make it look a little bit better. At least that's my plan. You can see the other side as well has some wiring on the inside of the cockpit walls. And yeah, right here, that we're going to have to add later on. But that's on the inside of the actual fuselage part itself. We want to go ahead and do the back part of the cockpit tub. So I got to tell you, the pictures that we have here, this would really, really help. It's not going to be 100% accurate, but it will be close enough. So talking about, scratch building things, we can use just, strips of styrene glued together, and we can whittle and carve out what we want. Or go to your spares box, dig around and see what you can find, because I did. And I found these really cool plastic pieces here that will be perfect for just giving it an appearance of some busyness back there. So we can glue these to the back of the cockpit wall, which is really neat. And this is actually from a 1/48 scale lag 3 from ICM. So you never know. Keep your parts. Also here we have these spare parts from an old KV1 I think from ARC or Eastern Express, you can see by the wheels. So we're going to use this, and we're just going to take these supports, and we're just going to cut the end off. And we'll use that for maybe a box or something on the other side. Also, we have this part right here, which is actually really kind of cool looking, kind of industrial. I want to use that for the back of the chair, give a little bit of an interest there. And this is actually from a I want to say 32nd Ki-84 that I had lying around. And then finally, we have these really cool, I guess, hoses that were modeled here in plastic. This is actually off of a F-104 that I built years ago. But these would be really kind of neat because I could use these to add some interest to the back firewall. I think this will be really, really cool. It's not going to be 100% accurate, but it's going to be close enough to give it some interest and to give it some busyness back there. So let's go ahead and get started, see what we can do. So I'm going to take my cockpit here, and I'm going to grab my ICM extra parts, and we're just going to start gluing this down. So I'm going to plant the first one, see what we can do. This is what that side should look like. This is unpainted, so you can see there are two boxes. There's some wiring, things like that. These aren't going to be 100% accurate. But like I said, it's going to give it an impression. And really, I don't think I'm going to have anyone poking down around in the cockpit itself, but this should add a bit of interest visually up on that side. So that's my goal. Up at the top here, we might have to add a few extra wires, maybe some supports. Might have to drill into this a bit. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. So I've got the first one installed. I'm going to go ahead and put the rest of them in, see what we can come up with. All right, so the cockpit is looking decent, I think. I think it's enough of a visual interest that it has a good look to it. This is the way it looks right now. And let's go ahead and mock it up into the cockpit nose, and we can get a better idea of how it looks inside there. Here we are. And you can see just a touch of interest in the back part there. You can get just a hint of some wires and some cabling. I like it. I think it looks good. I think it's going to be visually a little bit of interest. Yeah, not 100% accurate, but I think it's good enough for my purposes. It's not a lot, and I think it'll look really awesome when I go ahead and drop some washes in there. So let's go ahead and get to painting. I'm using some Vallejo light gray, and I'm just going to be airbrushing the inside of the nose cone and the inside of the cockpit. And this is really nice paint. I really like the Vallejo light gray. Sometimes, though, you have to mix it a bit more, but I've got a pretty good system down about how to do this, and it's working pretty well. Plus, you're not going to see a whole lot of it. So now that's drying, I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the flat black, and we're going to go ahead and airbrush the ejection seat and the instrument panel, as well as the front windscreen for the gun sight, and also the rear of the cockpit canopy, the frame that it sits on. We're going to go ahead and airbrush that a flat black. Anything really that we can find that we can use up for some of our flat black mixture here, we'll go ahead and paint. It just saves us hassle in the long run. Nice even strokes. This is Tamiya flat black, so it's beautiful paint. So I've gone ahead and worked on here. It's still dry. It's got a little bit of a sheen to it, but that should fade. And if it doesn't, I can always hit it with some flat spray. I've got the framework here on the cockpit canopy. And we have the fuselage. That's all dry. We need to do a little bit of sanding towards the bottom, but this side in here, next time we'll go ahead and paint that white. And I think this is a pretty decent space to stop. Do a little bit of work here. Once this is 100% dry, we'll come back, sand this down a bit, fair it into the fuselage. It's actually a pretty decent fit. There's not a lot of seam lines we have to worry about so far. Then, of course, our cockpit tub, scratch built. We need to paint the flat black instrument panels on the side and the front there. That should be interesting enough, but pretty easy to do. Once this is all dry, we're going to come on back and start assembling it. The nose cones have a little bit more drying to do before I really feel comfortable putting any washes on it. So we're just going to go ahead and let it sit there for now. I'm going to call it quits for today for this episode. Next time, we're going to come on back and we're going to start dry brushing and assembling the cockpit. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Until then, happy building, and we'll see you soon.